Get in, losers. We're going lifting. So I ended up in the hospital 2 years ago, and I was really annoyed to end up in the hospital. I don't necessarily, I don't think anybody ever wants to be in the hospital, but listen, I've gone through 4 abdominal surgeries. I can go to the hospital like a freaking warrior. But I remember this one night, I'm in so much pain, and I go to the hospital, and I'm very annoyed about having to go to the hospital because they're just like, you're fine. And I was like, there's no way I am fine right now. I remember being in this crazy pain in my stomach. And it was like a pain I had never experienced before. And I started having these weird symptoms. They were happening over the course of a month. Every week around this particular time of the day, I started getting this weird stomach pain. And I remember thinking to myself, what's going on? And I started to journal about it. I started taking notes of it. And I remember I was talking to Hillary. She's a registered dietitian I work with. I feel like at this point in time, everybody knows who Hillary is. Right? Ryan, do you know who Hillary is? The podcast is going to be with Maybe Hillary will be in studio eventually. But so I start writing to Hillary because she's a registered dietitian I work with. And every time, I'm having, out of the normal body reactions, I journal about it so she knows what's going on. And I remember being so annoyed. This is actually one of the reasons why my surplus didn't start sooner. It was because of my stupid fucking gut that is really not fucking stupid. I love my gut. You know that they call the gut the second brain. But I was so annoyed because we were talking about starting the surplus, right? And it actually made a whole lot of sense with the holidays, right? You go to holiday parties, there's some more food, you can nom on some more stuff. It's like part of the process. We didn't get to start this process because somebody was having this crazy random stomach pain. At one point, she was like, might be your protein shakes. And I was like, fuck, I have to stop these. And she was like, let's just see what happens. And another week goes by, pain's happening. Another week goes by, pain's happening. She's like, what's happening in your workouts? Like, can we be more specific about, time of the day? What's going on with sleep? Like, all of these things. And I'm documenting everything. And I still just can't figure out what is going on. Now, meanwhile, here's what I have figured out is going on. And I really do believe that this is the issue because I went to the hospital. They were like, you're fine. I'm crying in pain, not fine. And they're like, we're going to run all of these tests. So I have to do, I don't know what the technical term is, but it's a poop test. They have to check your bowels. They have to see if there's anything coming up. I had to do this weird breath test. I call it weird just because I've never heard of it before, but you blow air into a bag, and you have to blow air into a bag every, I don't know. It's probably not this, but I'm just going to throw numbers out every minute for 10 minutes or every 10 minutes for an hour. I don't know. But I remember I had to do this. It was really annoying. And then I had to get a colonoscopy. And not for nothing. Have you ever had a colonoscopy? The process of the colonoscopy really isn't that bad. They put you under, you're in, you're out. You get to eat a lot of pancakes afterwards. The prep for a colonoscopy fucking sucks. Now, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I've had to drink so much of this stuff in my life because not for the sake of a colonoscopy. I've had other procedures done where they just need everything cleaned out. And what's it called? What is this liquid called? It's this prep, and it's 2 gallons of this liquid. It looks like water. It's not water. Where's my water jug? This is a gallon. I needed to drink 2 of these within, I'm trying to remember what the time is for it, but you have to drink like 2 of these preps within a 24-hour period. I think it's like 12 hours. You have to drink this. And let me tell you, it is one of the toughest things to swallow. When I grew up, I used to love watching Fear Factor. I would pick a bull testicle over the prep any day. It is horrid. I've learned some tips along the way. On ice is a lot better than lukewarm. Just going to put that out there. But you have to drink this prep. And if you don't finish it, they like won't put you under. And then guess what has to happen? You got to try again. So I guzzle this stuff down. I get my colonoscopy done. They tell me you're fine. And I'm just thinking, I am not fine. I'm still in this pain. And the pain is, again, happening every week at this time. And I start thinking to myself, could this potentially be connected to nerves and anxiety? And at the time, I was training a client where our relationship took a really negative turn. And I was feeling so anxious before these sessions that I'm at the point where I'm going to say, that's what was causing me the severe pain. I'm going through these tests. The doctors are saying you're fine. Nothing's wrong. I'm taking different things out of my diet, working with registered dietitian Hillary, and nothing is wrong. So at that point in time, it's really hard to think that it's not somehow connected to the anxiety that I'm feeling. And you want to know something bonkers? I got to the point where I was just like, I can't do this session anymore. And me and this client parted ways. And guess what? The next week at this time, no more pain. I think sometimes it's hard for people to connect that our feelings, our emotions are necessarily triggering different responses in our bodies. But I absolutely believe that that is the case. And depending on the situation, depending on the different pieces going on, you might react different from me and vice versa. But I do think there is this deep connection between anxiety and the gut. I mean, even when I think about people in my circle, be it friends, be it family, be it clients, I have noticed that the people who seem to be the most anxious are typically the ones who have some type of a gut problem, be it inflammation, be it some type of like an IBS, a Crohn's, something. They happen to be very anxious people. Is it to say that the gut is causing the anxiety or the anxiety is causing the gut? I don't know, but I have noticed a correlation. I don't know if you can relate to that or not, but then going through that experience myself, I was just like, wow, there's some powerful stuff here. And one of the reasons I want to bring that up to you is because, if you are trying to figure out what's wrong with my gut, what's wrong with these different things going on, and you have worked with the doctors, you have worked with the registered dietitian, you're doing all of these things, and things just aren't moving forward, I'd be curious to ask, how's your mental health? How's your anxiety? Is there anything that's causing you a lot of stress that, if you stepped away from it, maybe you would notice a difference? And I think we operate in this world where people are just, constantly in this state of fight or flight, where it's like, I just got to make it through. And if that means, I'm bloated or I'm distended or I just don't feel good, it's just part of life at this point. And sometimes it's hard to get out. Like I see clients of mine where it's just like, you are so sucked into work that until you set some boundaries, like I'm not necessarily expecting anything's really going to chill out with you. But the science with this, it's the vagus nerve that connects to the gut and the brain. So it's really hard to make the argument that one doesn't impact the other and vice versa. I mean, even just thinking about the foods that you're putting into your body. Now, I'm a really big believer that there's no such thing as bad foods. And a lot of the times when I am talking about food, it is coming from the perspective of the goal being strong and defined. And when that's the perspective, that's the lens that I'm looking through, I do believe, if you want to have a Pop-Tart for pre-workout, go off. You definitely need your fiber. You definitely need your protein. You definitely need your whole foods. But I'm not somebody who is ever going to shame other people for processed foods or foods that come across as, junk food. But I think there is something to be said about if you are consistently feeding your body foods that, may be lower quality, there could be a correlation between how your gut is responding and the reaction that you are giving to your brain. And on the flip side, if you are somebody who just, can't set the boundaries, you're just constantly people pleasing, there's some type of, rewiring that needs to take place because maybe there's some type of an emotional trauma, whether it's like a big deal or maybe you don't realize it's a big deal, then that stuff needs to get sorted out if you are potentially feeling a lot of crazy stuff going on in your gut and the medical professionals are telling you it's all in your head. Maybe it is all in your head. Maybe you need to work with the therapist to work on, figuring out these voices, these symptoms, these things that are causing your head to turn into a problem in your gut. Does that make sense? Or like even other examples of this, have you ever felt really nervous? You feel nervous in your head and you get the reaction with butterflies in your stomach, or something really traumatic happens, like a death happens. And as you're trying to process this, your stomach is just like, don't give me any food. I don't want to eat. There's this connection. And I think sometimes we potentially overlook that because we can't fathom that, mental health is playing a role in how our body is responding to a stressful situation. It's funny, just like stress in general, it really can impact the gut. It can lead to things like maybe diarrhea happens, or you get constipated, or things are just like kind of messy. So much of that can come from being nervous, being anxious. I mean, even driving down to record the podcast this season, like I don't know if I shared this on this episode or another one that we've recorded so far, but I can feel in my gut like something is kind of off. And the only thing I can link it to, because I have been tracking everything while being away, is, nerves and just stuff going on in my head where there's a cause of stress. That's it. But it's kind of cool when we do give into that, because instead of looking at, what can I do to fix this? Sometimes it might just be take a breath, walk, relax, trust that it's all going to be okay. Cut this part off. Focus in on people that give you peace versus people who give you anxiety and send you to the fucking hospital. Oh my gosh. Sent to the fucking hospital. When it comes to regulating our nervous system, there's a lot of things that we already talk about that are so helpful. And I think sometimes these things just seem too simple that how could that work? But it can help. It's, your breath work. It's your consistent movement. It's lifting to a degree. Certain situations, I don't necessarily know that right now a deadlift would fix the constipation. But it's getting the sleep, it's getting the water, it's getting the fiber, it's getting the different nutrients. It's a lot of these basic things, and giving yourself permission at moments to just be instead of stressing out. And that's something that I hope, you as a listener, I feel like up until this point on the podcast, I've brought so many women on this show who have achieved incredible things, be it in their specific field or, clients who have come on to this show. And I think, specifically the go-getters who listen to this channel, sometimes it's really hard to just be and relax. And if you are dealing with some type of gut issue or you're feeling super anxious, sometimes before, thinking, I need to go get a colonoscopy, it's just, can I breathe? Can I evaluate the situation? Maybe if I think something is in my head, instead of judging that, no, it couldn't be that, maybe it is that. I don't like being around people that make me feel uncomfortable. And sometimes, I have found myself in situations in the past where it's kind of just like, to an extent, we don't always get to pick people. And I've got to this point where it's just like, no. If you're going to come into my circle, you have to bring some level of, I wouldn't say everybody in my life brings me peace, but when people bring too much chaos into my stratosphere, there's absolutely a boundary that gets put up, because that shit just stays with you and it doesn't feel good. And I've experienced it firsthand, telling people, hi, thank you, I know you want to be near me, but like, I just can't be near you because of the reaction that I'm getting. And it actually has everything to do with you. It does not have so much to do with me. I feel like that's the time where you say, it's not you, it's me, but no, it is you. And, you do your best to set the boundaries to protect yourself, because at the end of the day, if you feel dysregulated, it's going to impact everything else that you do. So if you can give yourself peace and keeping people around you that give you some semblance of peace, I think that's an important thing to just recognize and give to yourself. And I am in no way saying that if you have crazy gut issues, it's just in your head. That's why it is important. Go consult the medical professionals. Go get multiple opinions. This is one of those things where, maybe you start here or maybe you start there. It's just giving some perspective that sometimes when you go to the professionals and they're like, there is nothing wrong with you, we have to look from a different lens, and that's okay. You can eat all of the greens and take all of the probiotics, but if your nervous system is dysregulated and you're constantly in fight or flight, you might need to do some nervous system regulation work before everything's going to be copacetic. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Make sure to leave a rating and review, and I hope you listen to the next one.